Hey there, Bootstrappers. This is Ryan Nickel with another day in the life of a Bootstrap Real Estate Investor. So I'm waiting outside my son's Kung Fu class. Yesterday I went to court. I was doing, at one point I was going to intercede into a lawsuit, and then I backed out and I just handed over the file to another gal that has some interest in the property, with the hopes that she would pursue it, win, and then would basically for an assignment fee of my contract to her, recoup some of my cash. I'm into it about, I don't know, $4,500 right now. But anyway, I backed out of it, so I went to court just to see what the outcome was going to be. And as I sat there, man, dude, I don't know, like, legal jargon and whatnot. I mean, the attorney, who has good rapport with the judge, stood up, and the judge said something, and the attorney said something, and it like went right over my head. And then he turned to this gal and he goes, "You have any objections?" She's like, "Oh, I don't think so." But honestly, I don't know what that meant. And so we were like trying to figure it out downstairs after the fact. We're talking, we're like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not going to go talk to the other opposing counsel, like, hey, what just happened? Because he just would laugh at us. I know, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. But I pretty much wrote that one off. I think that's a done deal. But while I was there, I wasn't going to let an opportunity pass me by. Now, in my courthouse, where we have the probate leads, the computer system has been down for over a year and a half. They have had some kind of technical issues with it. They updated the software, and when they did that, they had no way of filtering it, so it released a lot of like private information out into public domain. So I used to have to go to the clerk, and the clerk would sit there for about 15-20 minutes, and they would pull up all the probate leads for me and allow me to copy down what I needed. I'm going to put this headpiece in just because we have cars and trucks driving by. I want to make sure that I have good quality of sound. And so I found out that the computer system is fixed. However, it's not fixed to the point where I can't go in there and I can't search and then look stuff up. And I usually just take my camera and just snap a picture of it. I have to go to the clerk and give them the case number. And I haven't been there since June because when I went in June and then when I went in July, their system was down and they couldn't pull it up for me for whatever reason. So I had 3 months worth. So I had June, July, August, and part of September, so 4 months. And I wanted to have them just tell me the case number kind of thing. And then like when I went back to the computer, like, oh, our computer's working. So I went over to the computers and I didn't have access to it. I could look up the case, but I could not none of the files were accessible to view. And so I had to go back to the clerk and I had to request these files, and they had to give me a temporary password that is specific to that case. And I don't have that paperwork here because it's in my office. And it was completely crazy. And she's like, I can only give you 5 at a time. And here's the thing. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I go back to the computer and I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, where do I put this login information at? So I finally figured, I had to ask her, and she's like, I'm going on break right now. So she came back and then she showed me how to do it. And I didn't know this. There was a limit. There's a 2-minute timer that automatically starts counting behind the scenes. Like you can't see the timer, and I'm sitting there. And once it's a one-time use login, by the way. So once I log in, it's done. I can't get back in. And so another, real estate investor, he sees me, in the computers, and he's like knocking on the windows, like, "Hey man, the computer's working. This is awesome." And I started chatting with him, and I look back and like, it like closed the screen on me, and I'm like, crap, this is crazy. So anyway, she comes back, she gives me a paper and then another piece of paper. Finally, I get all of them. I think I had about 15 or 20 different leads. And it took me a good, court was over at 8, court started at 9. We were done by 9:20. I didn't leave there until 11, a little bit after 11. It took me, an hour and a half, a good hour and a half to get these 15, leads. And as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, and just 2 things happened as an outcome for that. But one was like, I'm like, man, this is tedious. And if it's tedious, that means there's not a lot of people doing it. So I'm mining for leads where other people just are not mining. And I'm like, this is great. This is a good opportunity because it's uncharted territory in this one particular market that I'm in this one county. I go across the river to another county, and everything's public access. Everybody has it there. Excuse me. And so I realized that, okay, this is the situation. So, because I have 2 minutes, I'm like writing stuff down fast. I had to do everything shorthand and stuff like that, which means I also had to input my leads immediately, or else I would have forgotten what my shorthand meant. And it dawned on me, I was like, you know what? I need to create a cheat sheet. And so I actually went through today and I created a nice little cheat sheet so that I can just go from case to case to case and just put in the pertinent information, like, the name of the decedent, the petitioner, the referee's value of the property. In California, we're the only state where we have to have a court-appointed referee go by and do a BPO, a broker's price opinion. Basically, it's a drive-by appraisal saying, hey, this house is worth such and such thing. The interesting thing about it is they don't go from current market values. They go from the date that person died. So if someone, if a relative is waiting, let's say 2, 3, 4 years, case in point, I have a house where the daughters of the decedent lived in the house for over 11 years. The person died in 2008 or 2006, so the price came back extremely high because that's the peak of the market. And I'm like, what the heck? This house is not worth this much money. But sure enough, because it was when the decedent had passed, when they had died, and so I learned that the hard way. Obviously, the house is not worth that much anymore. So anyway, I'm getting distracted here. So I had this cheat sheet. So when I go back, before I just got to now fill in the information. I don't have to sit there and write it all out shorthand and stuff like that. So I got all that information. But here's the interesting thing: I have not gone back to my probate list since last June, and some of the leads that I pulled in June were from May. And in doing that, I realized that a couple of these houses I've neglected because some of the houses there's overlap. I go after pre-foreclosures and I also go after probates. And some of the probates, the descendants or the heirs are not able to afford the property, and so it falls into pre-foreclosure status. And I'm looking at a couple of these, and I'm like, crap, there's some houses from May that are still in pre-foreclosure. They have auction dates now, but they have done nothing with it, which it surprises me, is why someone would pay an attorney, go through the entire probate process, get possession and authority to sell that asset, that house, and not do anything with it. So those are high on my priority list. And I realized that because, one, people aren't going after probate leads, this particular one is not being addressed. One of them, unfortunately, is going to auction on Thursday. And I happened to knock on this door on accident, not realizing that it was also one of my original probate deals. And I'm not able to act on this one. I gave it to another investor that is hopefully able to act on it sooner than I could. It just wasn't going to be a good fit for me at the time. But what I'm starting to see is that because this particular deal or these particular houses that have deceased people on them, the investors driving around looking for properties, looking at these pre-foreclosures, looking at the tax records and go, oh, this is the person. Oh, but they're deceased. I don't know how to find them. They don't have the skills. They don't have the desire. Who knows what it is? But I have this other piece of information. I have probate tells me exactly who the heirs in this property are, what their addresses are. In some cases, it has their email and their phone numbers. And so I'm able to go directly to the heirs rather than having to skip trace and trying to figure out which one is the heir and all this stuff. I know exactly who the PR is, or the personal representative for that specific estate, and who's the shot caller, basically. So these are leads that I'm rededicating myself to go after because no one's going after them. And I realize that after, especially in the way that the silver lining with our county and the way that they are allowing their records to be released, these properties are still in pre-foreclosure status. And there's not just one. There was about 3 or 4 of them. There was 3 that I specifically know of that from my original from my last attempt to look at probates in June to today, in almost end of September, here we are the 26th, I think, that they have not been touched. And that's because most of the buyers don't know where they're at. Or most of the buyers that are out there looking for these properties, the other investors. So anyway, moral of the story is go after where no one else is mining. If you're going to mine, dig deep and go after places where the soil is rich and fertile and there's no one else in your own backyard. There are a lot of investors that are driving for dollars. There are a lot of investors that are knocking on pre-foreclosures. There are very few investors that are actually going after probate deals. The harder, more difficult, the more hurdles that you have to overcome in order to find the property owner, the easier it's going to be for your success. All right, I'm Ryan Nickel. I'm signing out. I've got to go pick up my son from class. And just remember, you're one deal away from changing your entire financial future. And probate deals can very easily be that trigger and opportunity for you. All right, see ya.